Okay, everybody, hopefully this screencast will go the way of Google as opposed to the way that PowerPoint went the other day, and that the voiceover and our kind of run through of these different technologies is going to match up, I'm hoping. I wanted to cover a couple of quick things. Before, we were covering just the basic software packages, and those are what everybody uses. They're what's commonly supported by IT. And as we saw yesterday, there are some fantastic different transitions and images and links and all kinds of really amazing things that you can do with those. The presentation tools that we're looking at today are not all free. Many of them are free, but they are at least a very different way of looking at it. And so we're going to cover Prezi first, and this one is probably the most unusual of all of them, okay? Now, what you will hear from some people is that Prezi requires a really significant learning curve. I didn't really find that to be true, but for some people it really is a matter of completely shaping the way that you think about presentations. So I do want you to take that into consideration, and when you start working on various projects, I'm going to have you pick one of these today to really explore in depth, and if you've got more time than that, then to go ahead and explore the other ones as well. But I want you to create something either in Smart Notebook or in Prezi today, and I'll have everybody do something in Jing just to get your hands on it, get a real feel for what it means. But know that you will, if you pick Prezi, you will likely finish class still feeling like you don't really have a good grip on it. Don't worry about that. The first time you use it, it is a little different. Now, what I would say when you log in, first of all, it's all on Prezi.com. You have to create an account. It's totally web-based, so you can access it anywhere. Kind of think of it as Google Docs. It's already in the cloud. You can access it at any time, any place, anywhere. It saves all of your stuff. The thing with Prezi that you want to understand is that it is designed as open source, and the open source philosophy is not just to give you free stuff and just say, well, here's all these wonderful tools, now you can do whatever you want with it, and bye, we'll see you later, and never see you again. The other side to it, to open source, is that you are expected to then share what you know. It's developed as a community, so you can't just take and not give something back. And with Prezi, when you create these Prezis, you are under the understanding that this stuff can be shared with anybody. So the possibility of them finding it is pretty remote, but for the most part, we use this stuff for informational purposes and sharing and everything like that, and so it's not really a big deal. Just know that if you intend something to be closed and private, you're going to want to stick with something like PowerPoint that's designed to be a closed system. When you log in and you create your account, just note that you can create it using your various social networking sites. I don't know that I would necessarily recommend that. Twitter and LinkedIn and that sort of thing is fine. That they usually don't have too many problems. Facebook makes participating in all these things crazy easy because you're already loaded into Facebook, and you can just one click and then you can comment on all these different websites. You don't have to create separate accounts, which is very nice. But Facebook has made it very clear that their concerns about privacy are minimal. And as a teacher, you really, really, really want to be cognizant of that. Okay, we'll spend some time talking about this and issues and trends at the end. But just know that your privacy is not really carefully considered when you link these things up. So just know that. If you're using Facebook for very superficial things or for networking, great, fine. If you use it for personal stuff, you're going to want to think twice. Okay. So when I log in here, I've got my Prezis logged in here. I've got, they've got a Learn tab here. So you can actually go through a whole tutorial. And today I'm just going to show you some of the basics and to get you started so that we can play with it a little bit. But if you really want to get into some of the real grit of this program, because it can really do some amazing stuff, then you're going to want to go ahead and go in here. All sites have good tutorials and links and things like that. This one is really, really good. I love it because it's so clean. It's got one section on getting started, then going to the next level, and then sharing. So it gives you a good little idea of what you're going to learn, and then it has a cheat sheet right below it. So if you're one of these people who really likes to have a hands-on sheet when you're learning something, They make it super simple. They offer weekly trainings in English and Spanish. They are the people who coordinate their Learn tab are really know what they're doing. So great resources. This is what we want to see out of all of them. Okay, and then when you go to Explore, remember the whole point was to share with everybody. So before you ever create anything, please remember this. Before you create anything in any one of your technologies, search for it. See if somebody else has done it. Because if somebody else did something that, I mean, this looks really cool, this great jazz bassist. I mean, they've got some sort of, it almost looks like a timeline on a guitar or something. So it really, some people can do some amazing things. And with a lot of these things, you can download them and manipulate them to suit your situation if it doesn't quite match. So that's the nice part. Save yourself some time and some aggravation and download what's already been done and then tweak it if that makes more sense for you. Okay, but I'm going to start with my Prezis, and I've got just a handful of them. I will give you a quick note about its use. Prezi is a zooming presentation, so PowerPoint is very linear. You go from one slide to the next, to the next, to the next. You don't have to storyboard in PowerPoint, meaning you don't have to come up with a rough timeline of what it is you want to cover and write that out before you go into PowerPoint. You can just start creating slides, and then if you modify them and move them around, that's very easy to do, as you found out. Same, it holds true for Google Presenter, but they are linear. They are, one simple concept, and they only go in one direction, forward. So this one is very different. It is a zooming software. So I'm going to take just an example here of when I go and visit educational classrooms here, and I just do, all I do is give them a demo or a rundown of some of the technologies that are currently available. And I'll go ahead and when you click on one that's already been created, this is what you're going to see. So it'll give you the title area here, and then you've got some options. You've got the edit option, edit together. Again, it's open source, so it's very big on collaboration. If you want to invite other people to edit it together, you can view it together. You can do that synchronously. If you want to download it and save a copy, you can. If you have any concerns about presenting this in a space where the Wi-Fi is not stable, or if you know that there's not going to be any Wi-Fi available, hopefully that won't be a problem for too much longer, but they do give you that option if you would prefer to do that. So right now I'm not going to edit anything. I'm not going to show you the editing tools. I'm just going to show you what a Prezi basically looks like. So we start with classroom technology, and to explain this, you can see how it just kind of zooms over down the corner here, and that's how it moves from one segment to the other. You can have it move in a linear fashion, but that's boring. Nobody wants to do that, and that's not what it's designed for. So you put it in a separate section, and it just automatically zooms to that area. So that's basically how it works. It will zoom over to my name here, and then I would go ahead and lead off with an idea of why is it important to learn technology, because there are some important reasons, and I'm surprised that I still have to convince people this is a good idea, but sometimes we do. So why learn it? And so I move down here, and you can see that you can add text, you can add pictures, just like you can do anything else. And I have what defines school is changing, and the part of the reason why I would give this talk this way is because obviously guy's eating hamburger here, but what a lot of people don't realize is that Hamburger University is the basically training ground for McDonald's employees. And I don't know if you guys have ever heard of this, but it's been around since the very beginning, and they teach managers of McDonald's how to do it. There's a reason why a double cheeseburger tastes exactly the same here as it does in Uganda. There's a very good reason for that, because they do have a very good training school in Illinois. They've had it for decades. Now, Hamburger University is actually an accredited college institution, so which really confused people. That didn't make any sense. But what it does is they've now incorporated management classes and business classes, and so you can actually graduate from this place with a degree in your hands that isn't just good at McDonald's. It trains you in general business, and so you can take that elsewhere as well. And every time I run into people and say, well, why is that necessary? Why would I ever want to go there? I said, well, maybe you wouldn't necessarily want to go to business school in McDonald's, even though it's a very old business and they've been very successful. You always want to learn from those people. But what of Google? what if Google decided to do this? And every computer science major I talk to, all of a sudden their eyes light up. You know, the possibility of learning from the best is very appealing. And so what defines our school really is changing a lot these days. So what Prezi does is you can type in this text line and then you can have your image, but it focuses on what you're saying as opposed to listing content. That's going to be one of the first things that you notice about Prezi. And then I move on to what defines education is changing. This is a 10-year-old boy who started an iPad app development club at his school. Now, yes, he is a genius, but he's working with people who are not geniuses. He is working with his classmates. And a lot of them, it's surprisingly easy to learn how to develop an app. He said there wasn't anything there. He wanted to start it up himself. And so this kind of defines this generation of self-starters. If it's not there, well, make it. You know, so how you learn things is changing quite a bit too. What you're seeing here is a YouTube embedded video. This is a TED Talk that this young man gave. And so when I move over here and I click play, we can watch some of what he does, and it gives a different dimension to what you're talking about in your own talk. And then you can move over to who your classmates are is changing. And this was an example off of my Facebook page that I'm not going to get into details or anything, but we were all just interacting and learning from each other, and there are about 7 countries represented on there. So, you know, talking about how our classmates are really spanning our borders. They're not just in our schools anymore. You know, we're learning a lot from a lot of people. So that's where that comes from. The last feature I want to show you here is when I zoom to the next area. This is the thing that I love most about it. It is a very different style of presenting, but what it can do is zoom and pan. And currently, you can't do that very well in PowerPoint and in Presenter. You can have a summary slide, a 4th slide here, summarizing those things, but it does not have the same impact as zooming out, and then you can see that these are the reasons why we need to learn technology, because school, education, and classmates, those definitions are all changing, and we need to keep up with those definitions. And so pulling out and seeing what that looks like, that makes a huge difference in how people understand your content. So that is basically what it looks like. There's a lot more to this presentation. I don't want to get into all of it. I just wanted to get you a rough idea of what it looks like. So if I go to edit it, then I'm going to see this, you know, really odd grid looking thing. And you can see I've actually got slides over here, just like I normally would have. But you're going to notice that they're not quite set up the way that you expect. Now when I click on here, you're going to see this little, it's called a zebra, basically. And it is what you can do to your content. So if you click on any area of your screen, you're going to end up with a blank grid. Click on any area of your screen, and this will move it around. Okay? This will turn it, this will make it bigger or smaller. So a lot of people start looking for like font size. You don't have to do that. There's just bigger and smaller here. You can delete it completely. You can, oh wait, hang on a second. There we go. You click on that and you can actually change the text of it. And here you've got all of your basic text options. These are not going to be any different to you. You can see that the choices are limited in Prezi. That's the important part. The design elements are very limited for good reason. Prezi is not designed to be content heavy. Okay, if you want a lot of content, you're going for Presenter or PowerPoint. Those are kind of your go-tos if you've got lots and lots of bullet points. If you want to focus on what you're saying and use this as a guide, excuse me, that's what this is for. Okay. I'm sorry, excuse me. A little tickle in my throat. Okay. Right now it's clicked on title, but you can also change the font here. You can change this over to body. It will change some of those elements. Okay, and click OK. And then so you can go ahead and change, well, let me go ahead and see if I can change it back to title. Okay, so that's how you can see that it will change your font a little bit. So play with those and you can see what your options are. Right now, there's a couple tabs here that you need to know. There's a home tab here, so anytime you want to go back to where you were at the beginning, that's what you want to click. Zoom in and zoom out, your options are here. So let's say I want to zoom out. So let me show you what this looks like. you can see from a broad range here, this is what it looks like. And that looks pretty crazy compared to some of the other things that you were learning. So what you want to be aware of is that you can see that some of these appear to be smaller and some of them are much, much bigger. I made these smaller because I have to zoom back out and I want them all to fit very easily. But you don't have to worry about size. A lot of people, when they start worrying about Prezi, think, okay, do I need to have them a certain distance, and do I need to change around the size, make it bigger, make it smaller? Don't worry, quite so much about that. You'll eventually get the hang of it, but this thing does take some practice, so it's very important. Okay, so if you're trying to, then let's say I know I want to edit this one. Okay, I know I'm going to go back into it. I can zoom in and say, oh yeah, this is what I wanted to edit, and this is an image, but I can go ahead and change that. You're going to see these numbers because these are where everybody is going when they're actually watching your presentation. And click home. Oh, sorry. Try that again. It takes me actually out so I can see the whole thing. Okay, so if I want to go ahead and insert these things, this area up here is where I'm going to do all of my editing. And you will notice that these things save. It's just like Google Presenter. It saves on a regular basis, so you don't ever have to worry about that. Now, my options for inserting something. I can insert an image, a PowerPoint, a YouTube video will play automatically in here if you give it the URL. You can use drawings, diagrams. If there's a file that you need to share, those options are all there. You will see that there is no text box insert because all you have to do is double click on any part of the screen and just start typing, and that will take care of it. If you want to frame it, that's what I did here. So you can see that each item, let me see if I can kind of scroll in here. Oh, go in. Okay. If I want to look at this particular area, I'll just click OK here. Okay. So I can go ahead into this area, and now you can see that I have frames around this information. That's because this text area is treated separate from this. If I want to focus in on both of these items, I have to put a frame around it. So I put a frame around this, I put a frame around this, a frame around this, and then a frame around the whole thing so that when I create my path, I can go to that. Okay? All right. So if I click on frame, it's got a hidden frame where nobody can see it. You just know that that's the area that you want to go to. You can have a bracket, you can have a circle, you can have a rectangle. It really just depends on if you want actual lines or you just want it hidden. Most of the time I just use hidden, but you can play with it. Okay. You can select a theme, so it does give you, some basic options here. You can change the colors around. It really just depends on what your preference is. I would play around with that a little bit. There's also a wizard up here, so you can mess around with a couple different options. Once you're done with your entire thing, or you can put all of your elements on it and then do your path, or else you can do certain elements, start your path just so that you can see where you're going. It just depends on what you prefer to do. Click on here. Oh, sorry. You click on here and you can see that it shows what the path looks like. So I'm going to go ahead and get out a little bit here. And you can see it starts here, and then it went here, and then here. And then you can see with what we showed, when you go to 4, it's here. It went to 5, it went to 6, and then it went back out to this bigger frame. So that's where it went to 7, and then it went to the next concept, and the same sort of thing. So it does look confusing, but again, practice is going to make it a whole lot easier for you. Now, the reason why storyboarding is so important here, you have to know where you're going, because if you start throwing things in here and then you start creating your path, you can see how hard it would be if I decided to move this frame over here, or if I wanted to switch up this concept with this concept and put it in a different order. Then it just gets really tricky. You can reorder your path. You can go from here over to here first and then back, but what it does is it'll zoom right over this stuff and it's a little distracting. So these are all things that you're going to want to think about as you're playing around with it. So you can see why I'm telling you that it's very it's a very, very different type of technology, and so it's going to take a little bit of practice, so don't get frustrated at all, okay? If you can get a hold of this, believe me, there is no technology that is out of your reach. Okay, and let's go ahead and cover Smart Note.